Have you ever walked into a room and thought, everyone here seems to have come from the same mold except me? It's that moment when you feel like the odd one out. For those of us who don't quite fit the mold, it can be easy to feel like an outsider. But what if this difference isn't a disadvantage? What if standing out is your superpower? When I was young, I attended an all-girls boarding school in Nigeria. I was often bullied for my size because I was one of the smallest and quietest in class. This made me very self-conscious and afraid to speak up. I didn't quite fit in. Encouraged by my parents, I pursued a career in civil engineering, a field that is male-dominated. So whether in school or at work, I was often the only woman or one of very few in the room. It was a challenging path, but one that has taught me resilience. Being the only one in the room can feel isolating, and that's where imposter syndrome often creeps in. Now, imposter syndrome is that feeling you have when you feel you don't belong. The Journal of Behavioral Science 2011 shows studies that 70% of people experience it. It's particularly common amongst high achievers, people in competitive fields, and immigrants. I even read that only 6% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women, and just 1% are women of color. Yet, if we embrace our uniqueness, it can actually work in our favor. When I moved to the US for graduate school in civil engineering, I stood out for many reasons. My name, my accent, my race, and my chosen field. So to cope, I took up ballroom dancing. As you can imagine, I was probably the only civil engineer who spends her weekends waltzing. But dancing helped me embrace my differences and showed me the strength in standing out. Now, living in the Middle East for the past 15 years, I still find myself as the only one in many rooms. Just recently, a woman enthusiastically greeted me by name, giving me a big hug like we were old friends. She knew me well, but I had no memory of meeting her. This happens so often to me because people remember me even from 10 years ago, while I struggle to recall where we met. So standing out, it seems, has made me memorable. So where do you stand out as the only one? There are 3 things we can do to leverage this only one feeling into our superpower. Number 1, embrace your uniqueness as an asset. When we choose to embrace our uniqueness as an asset, instead of seeing our differences as barriers, we view them as assets. I have a friend from high school in Nigeria whose mother was our physics teacher. She stood out as the only one in our whole year of 150 students because they were from Pakistan. By embracing her uniqueness, she stayed connected with us for more than 30 years, attending every reunion we had. Recently, she invited us to her children's weddings. 5 of us traveled to support her. When we got there, we were treated like celebrities. Imagine. people stopping us just to take a picture with us. Though we stood out, we felt celebrated for looking and sounding different. Number 2, find and cultivate allies. This happened to me when I joined the American Women's Association in Bahrain. I was the only Nigerian and one of very few Black members. But I embraced it, started teaching salsa classes, which I had learned from my Colombian friend in the US. It didn't even cross my mind. And then one of the board members encouraged me to run for president. And I became the first Black president in the organization's 30-year history. Standing out wasn't a weakness. It was my strength. And number 3, use your influence to open doors for others. As we get comfortable embracing our uniqueness, we can make room for others to do the same. I often share my journey of lacking confidence because I was the only one, to embracing it as my superpower to encourage others, hoping to make their path a little easier. By being visible, we inspire others to bring their full self into any room. So, the next time you walk into a room and feel like you're the only one who stands out, remember, this isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. Embrace it. Let it shape you and use it to drive positive change.